Hey, good evening, everybody. We almost didn't have a webcast. I'm really kind of behind on a lot of the office stuff, and I'm trying to get the office where it works for me, and I'm just having some difficulties here, but we should probably be over them soon. One issue that I've got here is I've got a bunch of copies of Instability SQT Photograph Handbook, and I'm holding it right here. And that book is out, and now it's a matter of packaging all of the orders going out, and there is a pretty substantial back order, and I've got to start dealing with that tonight, but it'll be good. At least everybody will be getting their books very soon. Let's take a look at weather across the central U.S. tonight. It's a little bit on the mild side. We've got a little gentle northerly flow from Colorado and western Kansas there. It's just kind of a cold polar high, kind of an extension of this plateau high region. So the air mass origin is not really Arctic, but it's more from the high terrain here, which radiates very well during the winter months. And yeah, you can see the temperatures here at this hour, 20s and 30s, and a couple of teens in that region. Now, we do have Arctic air out in eastern Canada, and we can see a bit of that coming down through the Great Lakes region. And there's our outgoing storm system there. That's been crossing the U.S. today, dumping snow on parts of Iowa and Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan right in that area there, and bringing down some cooler air from northern Ontario and the Hudson Bay region. Then down in the southeast of the U.S., let's take a look at that. We've got that cold front coming in through Florida right there from Jacksonville to just west of Tampa. And behind that, some rather mild air, 40s and 50s, coming through that region. It's kind of interesting the way they drew this tail end of the cold front, kind of backed up there on the Mexican coast, and you can see it there against the higher terrain of Mexico. We may be able to see that on the satellite imagery. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Got to switch over to the, yeah, here it is. And you can see what it's doing here in eastern Mexico. Let me switch over to the other Terra satellite. Yeah, look at that. That's all upslope and onshore flow. Polar air just kind of like piling up on the Mexican coast there around Tampico. And there you can see the higher terrain. And up in the plateau region of Mexico, this is up at about 6 to 7,000 feet. They're just kind of high and dry there because the polar air doesn't really reach up to those levels. It's very shallow in that region. And then down in the southern part of Mexico, we've got those gap winds blowing through that region. Okay, back up north, pretty clear skies, and there you can see white sands. And let's head into the current analysis here. There's our outgoing system, came through Texas and Oklahoma about 2 days ago. And cold air up in Hudson Bay kind of filtering down. And let's draw the front location. Looks like maybe a bit of a wave there. So there we go. There's the tail end of that system. And we've got another one coming on shore in the Washington, Oregon area. There it is right there. Warm front, maybe something like that right there. And then north from that, we would have a occluded front coming out to the region just west of Prince George. So the main area of baroclinicity, obviously we can, by drawing those fronts on there, we've got a pretty good idea. And it's where we have this tropical air mass, this modified polar air mass over the Seattle, Vancouver area, and the fresh, cold polar air offshore. So in between the three, right there, that's a prime location for baroclinic development. So we're looking for things to be stormy in the Seattle, Vancouver area. Let me take a look at chat, make sure our levels are good. Okay, very good. I'll get to that chat here in just a minute. Let's go to the upper level chart here. This is showing the jet stream pattern. This is up at 3,000 feet, or 300 millibars up at about 30,000 feet. We've got a polar front jet coming around the ridge right there in Washington and Montana. And then down in Texas, the tail end of that polar front is giving us a pretty strong polar front jet from the southern Gulf Coast up to Maine and New England right there. So looks like maybe 120 knot winds over maybe 130 right there over Nashville and Huntsville. But that's on the way out right there, and there you can see the trough. Now, one chart here that's very useful for finding those troughs is the hemispheric, and this is what it looks like right here. This is the 500 millibar chart, but it does show you the long wave pattern, and I find that these anomaly colors are very, very helpful for finding the long waves, because the small scale short waves are kind of filtered out, and the colors kind of identify the long wave pattern. So let me bring this up to the current chart. You can see that little outgoing system right there, and that brings us up to the current time. So yeah, this temperature anomaly over the Great Lakes is so small it almost doesn't show up. So our eyes are kind of drawn to the large scale long wave pattern. So we've probably got a long wave over the East Coast right there. And what we'll do is we'll just focus on the long wave troughs. So obviously a big one out in the eastern Atlantic right there. There's another long wave off the west coast. And looks like a big one in Japan, probably getting some really cold weather in that region. And maybe one here, so this is probably somewhere between 3 and 3.5 long waves. So that points to a very slow progression of the pattern. We really need about 4 to 5 long waves to keep it moving. When we have 3, we start worrying about blocking patterns. So that's one thing we would watch for. This might count as a long wave, but I don't know, it's pretty iffy right there. Let me run that back and check. No, I think that's probably kind of a medium wave here and the main long wave right there. So that's probably about maybe between 3 and 4. And let's see. It is progressing though, very gradually. But I think over Asia here, it looks like it may be kind of locking up in that region. That's a pretty deep vortex in that region. Okay. So let's go ahead and go forward. Here's the temperature anomaly. So we got quite a bit of warm air that is pushed north into New England, and the air coming in behind the cold front is unusually mild. So we're still, even behind the cold front, running about 3 to 5 degrees Celsius above normal. And up in Canada, a lot of above normal temperatures in that region. And we can also pick out the plateau air over Colorado and Wyoming, and this is what's filtering down into the southern plains at this time right there. And it looks like a lot of that cold air even extends down into Mexico. So probably some good radiational cooling taking place in that region. And then on the west coast, you can see the warmer air that's set up ahead of this Pacific system right there. So it's definitely good to look at that thermal structure, and this temperature anomaly, this is very, very useful. And it's pretty easy to find. Go into Google and put in GFS anomaly, and you'll be able to find these charts on there. All right. Satellites. So you know what that means right there. This is the water vapor imagery for it goes west. And let me take a look here. I've been meaning to bring more people into chat and more viewers, and basically it's a matter of me flipping the switch and turning on Google AdWords. I've got a little promo thing where I can kind of run that, and it puts up ads, and that will kind of, it draws viewers into the evening weathercasts. And to do that, though, I've got to make kind of a promotional video that's actually current, maybe talking about the current weather. And once I get that done, we may be able to bump this up above 20 to 30, but 18, that's really good for a quiet night like this. Mike R., thank you. And Sue M., gloomy, drizzly, cool day there in Indiana. David Moore is reporting a nice sunny day in northwest Texas. Mr. Manlet, 28 degrees there in the Rockford, Illinois region. Another warm-up coming for Friday to Sunday there. David Moore asks if books are mailing soon. Yeah, that's the big surge is coming tomorrow, and they are going out via priority mail, so they are going to start hitting mailboxes around maybe Friday to Saturday there. Ryan down in Florida, looking for the weather party getting started, front pulling through as we chat. In fact, I'll just give you the southeast U.S. mesoscale sector here. I'm definitely looking forward to spring. I'm planning on running some 4 to 5 hour forecasts, and I'm going to be setting up a drafting table here with an overhead camera that's kind of zoomed in on. I'm going to show you a bit of hand analyses and flip back to the satellite and kind of integrate everything. It's going to be, I've kind of got it worked out in my mind how this is going to work, and I think you all are going to enjoy that. Anyway, here's a look at Florida, and you can see the front right there. This is around 20Z today, coming up on Tampa, and that brings us to the current time, 02Z. Yeah, right about there. So there's the front. Looks like it's already cleared Tampa. Burl H is with us and Fun with Tech. Adam Davis fighting with Vegas Pro. Yeah, good grief. I know that Vegas Pro dumped us about 3 or 4 nights ago. Some of the files, they tend to get corrupt there. Ryan Toomey's understandable. Thanks. And yeah, appreciate it. Adam Davis, Megan John, snowstorm has passed with over a foot of snow around the Twin Cities, 19 degrees. Fun with Tech, no rush on my copy. I appreciate it. Adam Davis, front morning started with 50 degrees. Front brought us down to 35. Mr. Manlet reporting a confirmed EF2 in Bowie County, Texas, near DeKalb. Ryan Toomey's reporting on the earthquake there. We had magnitude 8 this morning, about 150 miles offshore of Kodiak. And yeah, there was a tsunami warning on that was changed out to an advisory. Okay, so 8.2, 130 miles away, 12 miles down. Yeah, that's a subduction earthquake there. Mr. Manlet, yeah, mentioning all over the news. So a little discussion there about Mother Nature. Dwayne Ward is with us, 51 degrees in Maryland. Mike Bexley says good evening, and Mr. Manlet says it's interesting with storms. Here in Illinois, it was actually hailing about pea-sized and covered the roads. All right. Okay, let's head into the forecast here. We've got some big changes coming up. And I think a good way to show this is with temperature anomaly. So there we go. This is the hemispheric view. And let me show you how this all unfolds, because we can actually see the polar air developing in its source region. And there's some of it right there in western Alaska. Things very cold, and let's see just how cold it is. Let me go to a good place to get these METARs is aviation weather. And western Alaska, a good station out in that region is going to be McGrath, which is kind of like dead center in mainland Alaska. Are they out? Oh, yeah, I don't think I know the ICAOs for Alaska very well. I think maybe, let me try PAMC. Okay, I think that's McGrath right there. Might be better just to go over to a surface chart. So let me go ahead and use that chart here. Got a few plots, and yeah, look at that, minus 44 just west of Bettles, and yeah, that's pretty cold there for sure, and 37 right there. And this is yeah, I was thinking that was along the road that goes up to Prudhoe Bay, but I think that goes a little bit further west. I tried to drive that back in about 10 or 15 years ago but we decided not to do that and just fly it up to Barrow. So yeah, that was way back. So yeah, let's head back and see how the polar air unfolds. Okay, so a bit of it forming, and we can see it spreading across Yukon and British Columbia towards the 27th and 28th. So you see right in this area here. And it kind of hangs on there. More formation around the 31st and the 1st. And now we can see one of our first fronts coming down. And ahead of that, notice the downslope right here. We've got temperatures about 15 degrees above normal in parts of Arkansas and the Ozarks. So our front goes south. And here comes another surge. And yeah, you can see right here the temperature anomaly really comes down about 35 degrees below normal. So this is on the 6th of February, and you can see the next front. This is a doozy here. Let me back up and, okay, no, not much downslope flow, but here comes that big blob spilling down and all the way down to South Texas. So this is 384 hours out, so a lot could change between now and then, but this is signaling that we may be returning to Arctic air in some form or fashion here. And another method, another mode that this can take is building southward across the Great Basin. That does happen sometimes, and we could, still see that. But if that happens, we would see a progression down into the Four Corners area in the southwestern U.S., and this area here would be hit especially hard. So that could definitely happen. But for that to happen, we would want to see very strong cooling in northern Idaho, eastern Washington, and British Columbia, in that region right there. This one looks like more of a prairie Arctic outbreak there. And one way I was able to see that unfolding was here on the precipitable water. I was looking for return moisture. I was looking for severe weather coming up. And then I noticed as I got further in here, towards the very end, I was seeing these 1050s. 1050, that's way up there in terms of pressure. And this is painting out a big high pressure area. And the leading edge is here. This is on February 6th. And there you can see it pushing southward very quickly. This is kind of a blue norther setup. So let's go and put it together. So we'll look at things down in the lower 48 and southern Canada. I guess we got Dave there in Alberta, but I'm not too sure we have any other Canadian viewers. We may pick up a few soon here. Okay, so starting out, we've got mostly kind of a plateau high extending into the South Plains. So there's the extent of that, centered on Colorado, extending into Texas as a 1028 millibar high. It's kind of a ridge like that. So another cool night for Texas. There's our outgoing system in New England. Very strong cold air advection behind that. And then for tomorrow, things kind of winding down in the northeast U.S. Still some cold polar air coming southward, but we've got southerly flow setting up in the northern plains there. So maybe a bit of a warm front there in the North Plains, something like that right there. And our system is coming onshore on the east coast right there. So somewhere in here, probably a baroclinic low setting up. Yeah, maybe kind of a small one right there in Oregon. But it is coming through. Downslope flow for Oklahoma and Kansas, so kind of a warm up. And this system is starting to cross the Great Basin area there. So that's on its way across on Thursday. Here it is crossing, and now we're looking for the very strong lee side development, and that's taken place over Nebraska and the Dakotas right there. And continued strong downslope flow heading all the way into Iowa there. So we probably got a setup kind of like this here. You can see the very strong thickness packing there in southern Utah and the Grand Canyon area, so that definitely places the tail end of the front through the Four Corners area. Okay, so again, this is going to be Thursday night. So this can actually be a good setup in the spring for Central Plains severe weather. So going into Friday, looks like our front comes through the southern plains and kind of stalls out there in New Mexico. Pretty good low development up there in Canada, but not much further south. Here's a low coming together there in Oklahoma. So that's picking up the boundary. And things get active out on the west coast once again. And looks like we got the Gulf wide open. So we're going to see probably some showers over the weekend. So here comes that boundary in through Texas. Probably a good setup there for showers. And things get active there on the west coast. Looks like most of it goes north, though. Looks like a warm front coming north. And looks like we're starting to cool down up north. 44 millibar high up in the Canadian region. So we're going into Monday and Tuesday here. We get one high coming out of Canada. Some strong cold air coming south. And downslope flow setting up in Kansas and Nebraska for Tuesday. But things are starting to look kind of wintry up north. So you see that right there? That's the leading edge of that Arctic air. And we're starting to get some systems crossing that. So that means bad weather for southern Alberta, parts of Montana, and northern Idaho. So here's one system coming across. There's some lee side troughing there in the high plains. Very strong downslope flow for Wednesday. And then let's just go ahead and advance this into Thursday and Friday. Pretty good area of cold air coming south, 1034 millibar high, but it extends all the way into the Great Basin area. So this is going to have an effect on much of the northern U.S. and the Rockies. This is Thursday the 1st. So this is going to be the first Arctic outbreak. This one's not going to be too severe, but yeah, you can see the snow there. Anywhere from Little Rock to Wichita, north from there. So the Thursday the 1st and Friday the 2nd, that moves out into the eastern U.S. The tail end gives some showers in Florida there. After that, pretty quiet, and then we're starting to build up for the second, more severe Arctic outbreak. There it is, the polar air starting to form up north. Here's the leading edge. Pretty good pressure gradient through this whole area here. So this is really shaping up. This is around the 5th and 6th, and here it comes, snow in Indiana. And yeah, look at this thing coming down, 1050 millibar high. That is kind of a monster wedge of cold air coming south. Of course, this could be just the GFS doing its thing here, but you know, we'll just watch that. But here it comes. I mean, dynamically, this is sound. I mean, this could definitely happen. But, you know, the atmosphere is going to vary between now and then, and likely it's going to diverge and do something else. But within the model, this definitely could happen. And something like this probably has happened in the past. December 1990, towards the end, very similar outbreak of cold air. So this is coming south. So there's the leading edge of that. Very strong norther coming through Texas. Showery snow back behind that. So we're up to the 7th of February, and very strong, fast-moving cold air outbreak. Looks like it crosses a few of the passes there in the Rockies, but only gets to about the Four Corners area. And we get to the end of the run. So actually it looks like it's probably, yeah, it's probably right up against the Front Range, I think. So that's what we're left with at the very end on February 8th. Okay, so we shall see. It definitely looks like winter is not quite over. Okay, the S. Kinney is here, the rat bastard in Tucson. Greetings. I used to live there, and yeah, I was there back in the 80s. and saw the monsoon storms in August and September. Sue M asks about the blue norther. That's kind of a regional term in Oklahoma and North Texas that is just any very strong outbreak of Arctic air that's very well defined. I mean, this is a great example here. If you look on one side of that blue line, completely different from what's ahead of it. And typically, if these are strong enough and have enough of a temperature differential, you actually will see kind of a roll cloud along the leading edge. I don't know if there's any examples online. Let me take a look here. Blue norther. It's not going to be any of these. Yeah, this, well, this kind of looks like that right there. You got the blue sky and you get this roll cloud coming in and usually some blowing dust behind it. That's kind of what it looks like. I've seen it probably, it's not very common. We do get them in Texas maybe every 4 to 5 years. We get one that's strong enough to do that, and it is spectacular. And if this happens, I'm going to go out and try to film it. And it might look a little bit like this sometimes, kind of disjointed stratus, something like that. This is probably a good one over here. This is towards dark. Not like this. And yeah, it can look like this right here. So this is a little bit more subtle here, but you can definitely see the linear structure and the turbulent air here picking up dust underneath it. And then above that, you've got tropical air that goes up and over the frontal surface back about 100 or 200 miles. Okay, that's probably about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you watching the webcast, and let me get this music going. Let's see here, too loud. Okay, thank you, and I appreciate you watching, and we'll try to put the webcast on once again tomorrow. Hopefully I get things straightened out, and we'll get those books out. Thanks, and have a good evening.